now get you the reaction of a South African who's currently based, in fact, in the UK, Musa Mdunge, political analyst currently based at the University of Dundee. A very good evening to you, sir. Grateful for your time as always. We were just speaking there with the VOA correspondent Henry Ridgewell about Africa's bloody relationship, the bloody past between Britain as a colonial power, a former colonial power, the continent and the Commonwealth countries, and just looking at the birth of the monarchy and its role during the colonial period. Does what happened today represent an opportunity for healing? Will the apology ever come? Because the royals have never really fully apologized or owned up for their role in what happened.
Good evening, Tembegile, to you and to your viewers. Thank you so much for having me. So, in terms of whether an apology will ever come, one would expect that the more comfortable King Charles III is within his reign as the king, as the monarch, it will be easier for him to be able to put his flair and style in being the current monarch. What I do not believe will happen immediately is there will be a fundamental difference between how he reigns and how his late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, reigned. We know and we understand that the monarchy is a very important institution in the United Kingdom. From an economical perspective, through tourism, it provides billions of pounds in terms of earnings, but more so, it holds a soft power to it. And when you think of the monarchy, you think of a set of values and norms that really still define the current global world order. Now, whether this coronation represents an opportunity for King Charles will depend upon how he sees, how he fits into his role, and how he understands the world as he sees it today.
Right.
The world is quite different from 1953, and he's got to consider how United Kingdom looks like in a world where we have rising powers such as China, such as India, such as Nigeria, all of them wanting to assert their dominance and their voices in the global issues and challenges of the day.
So how influential, Musa, is the UK then in that context, especially when you consider, as you're saying, the Russians are making advances in Africa, the Chinese as well. You've got the Americans who've also in the last, year and a half made multiple trips, especially in the post-Trump era, trying to reassert their influence and rebuild old relationships. The monarchy relies mainly on soft power. So how much can it do for the African continent?
So yes, the United Kingdom is not that great power which it once used to be. The days of old Britannia and Pax Britannia are no longer there any longer. It is the sixth largest economy in terms of nominal GDP behind India, and it will continue to deteriorate in terms of its position. By 2050, it will only be the 10th largest economy. And so the challenge that the United Kingdom has, and particularly it will be interesting to see how they will use the royal relationship as well as the fact that the royal family enjoys a higher level of popularity than the political elite, especially in Europe. How will they use that relationship in order to carve out a more strong and solid relationship with Europe, which it faces an existential crisis in the sense that by leaving the EU in 2016 through Brexit, the United Kingdom no longer can argue that it is a gateway into Europe and that it holds influence over mainland Europe, which was a particularly important point in favor of this special relationship between the United Kingdom and the United States. And so King Charles's coronation today represents for the United Kingdom this opportunity to really define, in fact, what it is that they are and who they are and how they will show up or seek to show up in the world. One gets a sense that after 2016, there hasn't been a concerted effort, which is understandable due to the domestic challenges in the country as well as the challenges within the Conservative Party itself, that there hasn't been enough work done in asserting and affirming what this new United Kingdom will stand to be. And that's the challenge where the United Kingdom finds itself today. It is a great power, uncertain about its future and not making the necessary plans in order to answer critical questions of how it then steps up and ensures that the privileged position that it is in right now, it continues to enjoy that and exercises that power responsibly.
Do you think governments like South Africa's would support calls such as what's been made by many people here at home in the build-up to today's coronation for the return of African jewels, including the Cullinan diamond gifted by the colonial government to the Brits, but rightfully would have belonged to South Africa had a colonial government not chosen to give it away?
Indeed, these discussions continue to be very fascinating. And when one looks at the current posture in terms of United Kingdom-South Africa relations, you will notice that there's been quite a huge snag in that relationship. You will recall that King Charles had invited President Cyril Ramaphosa for the first state visit to the United Kingdom. And that was signaling particularly the United Kingdom's interest in trying to bring South Africa into this concert of rising and powerful democracies in the global economy, of which South Africa is a member when you think of countries such as India or Brazil. But unfortunately, our closeness to Russia, our inability to truly be neutral in terms of that conflict, has led to a deterioration of relationships. And this then poses a challenge as to whether, this coronation of King Charles and the hopes and dreams and aspiration of his reign will be met in building a closer relationship with South Africa and Africa as a whole. But will South Africa present the kind of leadership that we need that will stand up to its former colonial power and, ask for it to move in a way that shows that it truly is a partner in reconciliation, in nation building, and in African renaissance. And I think the challenge with South Africa is, unfortunately, depending who you have on power, foreign policy can either be a very important priority or can be a by-the-way issue. And so the last time we saw really a strong concerted effort to assert this idea of African renaissance, African solidarity was under President Thabo Mbeki. And unfortunately, our loss of economic clout has also hindered us, especially in playing a more influential role, not only in the region, not only in the continent, but in terms of our relationship with our closest partners, of which the United Kingdom is one.
Musa Mdunge, good to speak to you. Political analyst at the University of Dundee in the UK, speaking to us today on the coronation of the new monarch of the Brits, that is King Charles III, monarch over that country and the related territories.